The transport ship shuddered as it docked with Galactic Academy Station Epsilon. Jiwon pressed his face against the viewing port, watching the massive ring-shaped station rotate slowly against the backdrop of stars. His heart hammered in his chest. This was really happening. He was really here, millions of miles from Earth, about to study alongside aliens from across the galaxy. The docking tunnel extended with a metallic groan. Jiwon grabbed his single bag and followed the other passengers out. The moment he stepped into the station, his senses were overwhelmed. The air tasted recycled and strange. Lights flickered in colors his eyes had never processed before, and the beings around him were like nothing he had ever imagined. A creature made entirely of blue crystal floated past, humming a tune that made his teeth ache. Two reptilian students argued in a language of clicks and hisses. Something that looked like purple smoke in a containment suit drifted through the crowd. Jiwon stood frozen, his bag hanging from his shoulder, wondering if he had made a terrible mistake. "Human, you are blocking the passage," a mechanical voice said behind him. Jiwon jumped and moved aside quickly. He mumbled an apology and hurried toward the student registration area. His hand shook as he pressed his thumb to the scanner. The screen flashed green and displayed his room assignment. Sector 7, Room 2847. He had no idea where that was. The first week passed in a blur of confusion and wonder. Classes were held in rooms designed for species with completely different needs. Some had gravity 3 times Earth normal. Others were filled with liquid methane. Jiwon attended the ones compatible with human biology, and tried not to feel inadequate when he struggled to understand lectures that other students seemed to grasp instantly. He ate alone in the massive cafeteria, watching the social groups form and reform. The crystalline beings clustered together at tables that glowed under special lights. The reptilians dominated the warmest section near the heat vents. Gaseous entities floated above everyone else, their containment suits linked together in some kind of network. Everyone had their place. Everyone belonged somewhere. Everyone except Jiwon, who ate his synthetic protein bars and watched. That was when he first noticed her. She sat in the farthest corner of the cafeteria, at a table meant for 8, but occupied only by her. She was humanoid in shape, with pale green skin and long silver hair that fell past her shoulders. Her eyes were large and dark like pools of ink. She picked at her food slowly, never looking up, never making eye contact with anyone. Jiwon watched as a group of students approached her table. They seemed excited about something, talking rapidly, but as they got closer to her corner, their enthusiasm died. One by one, they stopped walking, their faces twisted in disgust. They covered their mouths and noses, turned around, and found a different table far away. The girl did not react. She had clearly expected this. She simply continued eating alone, her shoulders hunched inward as if she was trying to make herself smaller. This happened every day for a week. Jiwon watched it happen over and over. Students would forget she was there, would start to walk toward that corner, and then would suddenly remember and retreat. Some made rude gestures. Others laughed with their friends. But most just looked uncomfortable and hurried away. Jiwon wondered what was wrong. Was she dangerous? Was she sick? He asked his roommate, a human named Taemin who had been at the academy for a year already. "Oh, her," Taemin said, not looking up from his datapad. "She's Veltheron. They smell terrible. Like really bad. Most species can't stand to be near them. She showed up last semester and tried to join some study groups. It was a disaster. Now everyone just avoids her." "What does she smell like?" Jiwon asked. Taemin shrugged. "I've never gotten close enough to find out." "Why would I? Look, if you want to survive here, you need to understand the social structure. Some species are popular, some aren't. Veltherans are at the bottom. That's just how it is." Jiwon thought about that conversation as he made his way to the library the next day. He had a research project due for his xenobiology class and needed to use the specialized databases. The library was enormous, with sections designed for different atmospheric needs and different types of information processing. He found a terminal in the human-compatible section and sat down. The chair next to him was empty. He started his research, pulling up files on different planetary ecosystems. He was so focused on his work that he did not notice when someone sat down beside him. It took him several minutes to realize he was no longer alone. He glanced to his right, and there she was. The girl from the cafeteria. She had a datapad in her hands and was reading intently. her lips moving slightly as she processed the information. Jiwon looked around. Several other students were staring at them. Some had gotten up and moved to different sections. Others were whispering behind their hands. A reptilian student made a gesture that Jiwon did not understand but was clearly insulting. Then he smelled it. It drifted over to him slowly, like morning mist through a forest. It was earthy and rich with layers of complexity he had not expected. It smelled like the rain that fell on his grandmother's garden back in Busan. It smelled like the pine trees in the mountains where his family had gone camping every summer. It smelled like wet soil and growing things and the mushrooms his mother cooked with garlic and sesame oil. Jiwon breathed in deeply. The scent filled his lungs and something inside his chest loosened. He had been tense since arriving at the station, wound tight with anxiety and homesickness. But this smell that everyone else hated, made him feel like he could breathe properly for the first time in weeks. The girl must have sensed him looking at her. She glanced over, her dark eyes wary and defensive. She was clearly waiting for him to leave, to make some excuse and move away like everyone else did. Jiwon smiled at her. It was a real smile, not forced or polite. "Hi," he said quietly. "I'm Jiwon. Is this seat taken?" The girl stared at him. Her eyes widened in surprise. Her mouth opened slightly, but no sound came out. She looked confused, like she was trying to understand a language she had never heard before. "I mean, I know I'm already sitting here," Jiwon continued, feeling awkward now. "But I just wanted to make sure it was okay. I have a lot of research to do, and this terminal has a good connection." "You?" The girl started, then stopped. Her voice was soft and melodic. "You are staying?" "Yeah," Jiwon said. "Unless you want me to move. I can go somewhere else if you need space." "No," she said quickly, too quickly. Then softer, "No, you can stay." They sat in silence for a while, both pretending to focus on their work. But Jiwon noticed the girl kept glancing at him from the corner of her eye, as if she expected him to change his mind at any moment. As if this was some kind of trick or joke. After 20 minutes, she spoke again. "I am Nari." Jiwon looked up from his terminal. "Nice to meet you, Nari. You do not find my scent unpleasant?" she asked. The question was blunt, direct. Jiwon considered lying to be polite, but something about her expression told him she would know. "Honestly, I think it smells like home." Nari's eyes filled with tears. She blinked them away quickly and turned back to her datapad. But Jiwon saw her shoulders relax just a little bit. He saw the smallest hint of a smile on her lips. They worked side by side until the library announced closing time. As they gathered their things, Jiwon said, "Same time tomorrow?" Nari looked at him for a long moment. Then she nodded just once. But it was enough. The next morning, Jiwon woke up before his alarm. He got dressed quickly and grabbed breakfast from the dispenser in his room instead of going to the cafeteria. He wanted to get to the library early. He told himself it was because he had work to do, but he knew the real reason. He wanted to see if Nari would show up. She was already there when he arrived, sitting at the same terminal as yesterday. She looked up when he approached, and something like relief flashed across her face. She had expected him not to come. She had expected yesterday to be a one-time thing, a strange moment that would not repeat. "Morning," Jiwon said, setting his bag down. "Good morning," Nari replied, her voice still cautious. They fell into a routine. Every morning they met at the library. They did not talk much at first. They just worked side by side, the comfortable silence broken only by the soft sounds of data processing and occasional questions about their assignments. But gradually, conversation began to flow. Jiwon learned that Nari was studying xenobiology, the same field he was interested in. She wanted to understand how different species could live together, how biology shaped culture and communication. It was deeply personal for her. Her people, the Veltherans, communicated as much through scent as through speech. Their pheromones carried complex emotional information that words could not capture. "On my world," she explained one day, "you can walk into a room and immediately know how everyone feels. Joy, sadness, fear, love. It is all in the air. We cannot hide from each other. It makes us very honest, but also very vulnerable." "That sounds beautiful," Jiwon said. Nari shook her head. "Other species do not think so. They think we are overwhelming. They think we are rude for existing in their space. When I arrived here, I thought I could make them understand. I thought if I explained our biology, our culture, they would accept me. But they just wanted me to stay away. Jiwon felt anger rise in his chest. That's not fair. Fair does not matter in galactic politics, Nari said quietly. Power matters. Numbers matter. My people are few, and we do not have resources that others want, so we do not matter. After that conversation, Jiwon started doing research. He looked up everything he could find about Veltharans and human sensory processing. What he discovered fascinated him. Humans, it turned out, processed smells very differently from most other species. Earth's evolutionary history, with its diverse plant life and complex ecosystems, had given humans a nuanced relationship with scent. What registered as overwhelming or toxic to species from sterile or gas giant worlds could be neutral or even pleasant to humans. He showed Nari his findings one morning. Look at this. It's not that there's something wrong with how you smell. It's that most species here evolved in environments completely different from yours. But humans, we evolved around plants and soil, and all the things that your pheromones are chemically similar to. Nari studied the data carefully. So you do not find me unpleasant because of human biology? Partly, Jiwon admitted, but also partly because I grew up around these smells. My grandmother had a garden. We lived near forests. These are good memories for me. You smell like home. Something changed in Nari after that. She started to trust him. She began to talk more freely, to share stories about Velthara. She described cities built into enormous trees, where homes grew from living wood. She talked about festivals where entire communities would gather and create collective scent songs that told stories without words. She spoke about her family, who had been nervous about her leaving but proud that she wanted to bridge the gap between their world and the wider galaxy. Jiwon shared his own stories. He told her about Busan, about the ocean and the mountains, about his family's small apartment where 3 generations lived together. He talked about the pressure he had felt to become a doctor or engineer, something practical and respectable. Coming to the academy had been his rebellion, his way of choosing his own path. My parents were not happy, he said. They thought I was wasting an opportunity, but I could not spend my life doing something I did not care about just because it was expected. That was brave, Nari said. Or stupid, Jiwon laughed. I'm still not sure which. They were not alone in noticing their growing friendship. Other students began to avoid Jiwon too. In the cafeteria, tables would empty when he sat down. In classes, no one wanted to be his lab partner. Even other humans started to distance themselves. Taemin confronted him one evening in their shared room. What are you doing, Jiwon? Do you understand what you're throwing away? I'm making a friend, Jiwon said simply. She's not your friend. She's a social suicide. Do you know how hard it is to build connections here? This place is about networking, about making alliances that will matter when we go back to our worlds. You're supposed to be representing humanity, and instead you're sitting with the one being everyone avoids. Maybe everyone is wrong, Jiwon suggested. Taemin laughed bitterly. Right and wrong don't matter here. Reality matters. And the reality is that she smells bad and no one wants to deal with it. That's not going to change just because you're okay with it. But something did change. During one of their library sessions, Jiwon and Nari were assigned to work together on a project for their xenobiology class. They had to choose 2 species and analyze potential biological compatibility or conflict. Most students chose popular species, ones with lots of available research. Jiwon suggested they study Veltharans and humans. Nari looked uncertain. People will say we are biased. Maybe we are, Jiwon said. But we also have access to information no one else does. You're Veltharan. I'm human. We can do primary research. They started carefully, documenting their interactions and Jiwon's responses to Nari's pheromones. They measured his stress levels, his heart rate, his neurological responses. What they found surprised both of them. When exposed to Nari's scent, Jiwon's stress markers decreased significantly. His focus improved. His mood stabilized. The effects were measurable and consistent. "This is just you," Nari said, looking at the data. "You are one human. We cannot make conclusions from one subject." "Then we find more," Jiwon said. He was excited now, the researcher in him waking up. "There have to be other humans who respond this way. We just need to find them." It was not easy. Most humans at the academy refused to participate. They did not want to be associated with Nari. But Jiwon was persistent. He reached out to everyone he could, explaining the research, promising anonymity. Finally, 3 other humans agreed to participate. The results were not identical, but they were promising. 2 of the 3 showed similar positive responses. 1 was neutral. None showed the extreme negative reaction that other species reported. It was preliminary, not enough for definitive conclusions, but it was a start. They compiled their findings into a report. It was thorough and careful, acknowledging limitations while presenting their data. They argued that what seemed like incompatibility between species might actually be opportunity. That understanding biological differences could lead to unexpected benefits. Jiwon submitted the report to their professor, Dr. Kalin, a Tesseran scholar with 4 arms and kind eyes. A week later, Dr. Kalin called them to her office. "This is remarkable work," she said, scrolling through their report on her display. "Preliminary, yes, but the implications are significant. Have you considered submitting this to the mid-cycle academic summit?" Jiwon and Nari looked at each other. The summit was a major event. Students from across the station presented research to faculty and visiting scholars. It was prestigious, but also highly competitive and very public. "We would be presenting in front of everyone," Nari said quietly. "Yes," Dr. Kalin agreed, "and given the subject matter, there will be controversy. But this is exactly the kind of cross-species research the Academy claims to value. If you're willing to face the scrutiny, I think you should do it." Jiwon felt his heart racing. This was bigger than he had imagined, but he looked at Nari and saw something new in her expression. Not fear, but determination. "We will do it," Nari said. "We will present our research." Dr. Kalin smiled with all 4 of her eyes. "Then I will submit your application. But be prepared. This will not be easy. Many will not want to hear what you have to say." As they left the office, Jiwon felt both excited and terrified. They had just committed to standing in front of the entire academy and defending their work, defending their friendship, defending the idea that Nari was not something to be avoided, but someone worth knowing. "Are you sure about this?" he asked Nari as they walked through the corridors. She stopped and looked at him directly. "For the first time since coming here, yes, I am sure." "Thank you, Jiwon, for seeing me." Jiwon smiled. "Thank you for letting me." They did not know it yet, but their decision to present their research would change everything. For better and for worse, nothing would ever be the same. The announcement went up on the station network 3 days later. Among the dozens of presentations scheduled for the mid-cycle academic summit, one entry stood out: Cross-Species Therapeutic Potential, a case study of Veltharan-human biological interaction by Jiwon and Nari. The response was immediate and divided. Some students expressed curiosity. A few professors sent messages of support. But the majority reaction was hostile. Comment sections filled with criticism. Anonymous accounts posted cruel jokes. Someone created an image of Jiwon with a clothespin on his nose and spread it across the network. Jiwon tried to ignore it. He told himself that controversy meant people were paying attention, that their research was challenging assumptions, that this was a good thing. But it was hard to believe that when he walked through the corridors and heard whispers following him, when he entered the cafeteria, and the entire room seemed to go quiet. Taemin moved out of their shared room without explanation. He just packed his things one afternoon while Jiwon was at class and transferred to a different sector. When Jiwon messaged him asking why, Taemin's response was brief. "I can't afford to be associated with you anymore. This isn't personal. It's survival." It felt personal. The human delegation at the academy was small, only about 30 students total. They were supposed to represent Earth, to show that humanity deserved a place in galactic society. There was an unofficial pressure to maintain a good reputation, to not cause problems. Jiwon was causing problems. Director Minha, the senior human administrator on the station, summoned him to her office. She was a stern woman in her 50s who had spent 2 decades building relationships with other species. She looked at Jiwon with disappointment. "Do you understand what you are doing?" she asked. "I'm presenting research," Jiwon said. "You are making us look foolish. Other species already think humans are primitive and irrational. Now you are confirming that by befriending someone, everyone else has the good sense to avoid." "Maybe everyone else is wrong." Director Mina slammed her hand on the desk. "This is not about right or wrong. This is about politics. About survival. Humanity is barely tolerated in galactic society. We need allies. We need respect. What we do not need is one stubborn student throwing that away because he feels sorry for an alien girl." "I don't feel sorry for her," Jiwon said, anger rising in his voice. "I respect her. She is brilliant and kind, and she is doing important work. The fact that everyone judges her based on how she smells says more about them than it does about her." "That judgment is reality," Director Minha said coldly, "and reality does not care about your moral superiority. I am asking you, as the representative of your species on this station, to withdraw from the presentation. Focus on your studies. Stop making yourself and all of us a target." Jiwon stood up. "I won't do that." "Then you are a fool," Director Mina said. "And when this damages your future and Earth's reputation, remember that you were warned." The conversation with Director Minha shook Jiwon more than he wanted to admit. That night he received a video message from his parents. They had heard about the situation through some complicated chain of communication that connected Earth to the Academy. His mother's face filled the screen, worry etched into every line. "Jiwon, we do not understand what is happening," she said. "People are saying you have thrown away your education for some alien. They say you are embarrassing yourself. Please tell us this is not true." His father appeared behind her, his expression stern. "You fought so hard to go to that academy. We let you go even though we did not agree. But we thought you would take it seriously. We thought you would make us proud." The message ended. Jiwon sat in his empty room and felt completely alone. Maybe everyone was right. Maybe he was destroying his future for nothing. Maybe Nari was not worth all this trouble. The thought came and he hated himself for thinking it. He found Nari in the library the next morning. She looked exhausted, like she had not slept. The spaces around her were even emptier than usual. Someone had written a slur on the table where she always sat. She was trying to clean it off with her sleeve. "Let me help," Jiwon said, sitting down and pulling out a cleaning cloth. They worked in silence for a while. Then Nari spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "I am leaving." Jiwon stopped cleaning. "What?" "I am withdrawing from the academy. I have already submitted the paperwork. I leave in 3 days." "No," Jiwon said. "You can't. We have the presentation. We have the research." "The research does not matter if presenting it destroys your life," Nari said. She would not look at him. "I have been selfish. I was so grateful to have a friend that I did not think about what it was costing you. But I see it now. Your roommate left. Your people hate you. Even your family is disappointed. This is my fault." "It's not your fault," Jiwon said firmly. "I should never have come here. I should have stayed on Velthara where I belong. My people tried to tell me that the galaxy was not ready for us. I did not listen. I thought I could be different, that I could make them see us differently. But I was wrong. Some things cannot be changed." She stood up and gathered her things. Jiwon grabbed her arm gently. "Nari, please. Don't go," she pulled away. "You will be better off without me. You can rebuild your reputation. You can finish your studies. You can have the life you came here for. I will go home and you will forget about me and everything will be fine." "I don't want to forget about you," Jiwon said. "You're my friend. Maybe my only real friend here." Tears fell down Nari's face, leaving silver trails on her green skin. "Then I am sorry, because I cannot be your friend anymore. Friendship should not hurt this much." She walked away and Jiwon did not follow. He sat at the table, staring at the half-cleaned slur, feeling like his chest had been hollowed out. Around him, students whispered and pointed. He did not care. Let them talk. Let them judge. What did it matter now? He went to class but could not focus. He went to the cafeteria but could not eat. He went back to his empty room and lay on his bed staring at the ceiling. His datapad buzzed with messages. Some were mocking. Some were from concerned professors. One was from Taman, surprisingly. Sorry, man. I know this sucks. Jiwan ignored them all. He thought about Nari's words. That friendship should not hurt this much. She was right. But she was also wrong. Real friendship, true connection, it was worth fighting for. It was worth the cost. He sat up suddenly. Nari was leaving in 3 days. That meant she had not left yet. There was still time. He grabbed his jacket and ran out of his room. He navigated through the station's corridors, pushing past surprised students, ignoring their stares. He reached the residential sector where Nari's room was located and pounded on her door. She opened it slowly. Her eyes were red from crying. Behind her, Jiwon could see packed bags. She really was leaving. Jiwon, please do not make this harder, she said. I'm going to make it easier, Jiwon said. I'm going to tell you the truth. Yes, my roommate left. Yes, other humans are angry at me. Yes, my family does not understand. And you know what? I don't care. I came to this academy because I was running away from expectations, from a life that everyone else had planned for me. I was looking for something real, something that mattered. And I found it. I found you. I found our research. I found a purpose. Do you really think I'm going to give that up because some people are uncomfortable? Your future, Nari started. My future is mine to choose, Jiwon interrupted. Not Director Minha's, not my parents, mine, and I choose this. I choose our research. I choose friendship over reputation. I choose to present our findings at that summit because what we discovered matters. It could help people. It could change things. Are you really going to walk away from that? Nari stood in her doorway, trembling. I am so afraid. So am I, Jiwon admitted. I'm terrified. But I would rather be terrified and doing something meaningful than comfortable and living a lie. Stay, Nari, present with me. Let them see that what they think about you is wrong. Let them see that their prejudice is blinding them to something valuable. We can do this together. And if we fail, Nari asked. Then we fail together, Jiwon said. But at least we tried. At least we stood up and said that things should be different. That has to count for something. Nari was quiet for a long time. Behind her, Jiwon could see her packed bags waiting by the door. He thought she would say no. He thought she would close the door and he would never see her again. Then she stepped forward and hugged him. It was sudden and unexpected. Her arms wrapped around him and he could feel her shaking. The scent of pine and earth and rain surrounded him. It smelled like courage. Okay, she whispered into his shoulder. I will stay. But not in hiding. Not in silence. If we do this, we do it completely. No filters. No apologies. No pretending I am something I am not. Jiwon hugged her back. Deal. They stood there in the doorway, two beings from different worlds, choosing the harder path because it was the right one. Around them, the station hummed with life and judgment and fear, but in that moment they had each other. And that was enough. 2 weeks remained until the summit. Jiwon and Nari worked day and night, refining their presentation and expanding their research. Dr. Kalin had arranged for them to use a private laboratory, away from the judgmental eyes of other students. The lab became their sanctuary, a place where they could focus on science instead of social politics. They needed more data. Their initial study with 4 humans was interesting, but not enough to make a strong case. They needed to understand the mechanism, the biological why behind their findings. Jiwon spent hours reading research papers on human evolutionary biology, on the development of the olfactory system, on how scent connected to memory and emotion in the human brain. Nari studied the chemistry of Veltharan pheromones, breaking down their molecular structure, comparing them to compounds found in Earth's ecosystems. What they discovered was fascinating. Veltharan pheromones contained chemical markers almost identical to compounds produced by certain Earth plants, specifically those that humans had evolved alongside for millennia. Trees, herbs, flowers. The scents that had surrounded human development were molecularly similar to Veltharan communication signals. It is like your species and mine evolved in parallel, Nari said, studying the data. Different worlds, different paths, but somehow arriving at compatible chemistries. Or maybe it is not so different, Jiwon suggested. Life follows certain patterns. Carbon, water, organic molecules. Maybe what we are seeing is not coincidence but inevitability. Maybe compatibility is more common than we think, and we just have not looked for it. They documented everything carefully, building their case piece by piece. But they needed human test subjects, and no one was volunteering. The hostility toward their research had only intensified. Someone started a petition to have them expelled from the academy. It gained over 200 signatures in 3 days. Then unexpectedly, help arrived. A human student Jiwon had never met knocked on the laboratory door. She was small and quiet, with tired eyes and nervous hands. Her name was Somin, and she was studying medicine. "I want to participate in your research," she said without introduction. Jiwon and Nari exchanged glances. "Why?" Jiwon asked. Somin hesitated, then spoke in a rush. "I lost my family in the Titan colony accident 5 years ago. My parents and younger brother. Since then I have had problems, nightmares, anxiety, nothing helps. But I read about your research and I thought, maybe this is different. Maybe scent therapy could reach something that traditional treatments cannot." Nari stepped forward gently. "We cannot promise anything. This is still experimental." "I know," Somin said, "but I am desperate. And also I am tired of being afraid. Everyone says to avoid you, that you are dangerous or wrong. But I think maybe everyone is afraid of something new. I do not want to be that person anymore." They ran the tests with Somin. The results were extraordinary. Her stress responses dropped dramatically when exposed to Nari's pheromones in controlled amounts. She reported feeling calm for the first time in years. Said the scent reminded her of the botanical gardens her mother had taken her to as a child. The memories were bittersweet but healing, not traumatic. "This is real," Somin said after the session, tears streaming down her face. "This is really helping. You have to share this. People need to know." Word spread quietly. 3 more human students came forward, all dealing with various forms of trauma or anxiety. Not all of them responded as strongly as Somin, but the pattern held. For humans specifically, Veltherin pheromones had therapeutic potential. What other species found repulsive was, for humans, potentially medicinal. They worked frantically to document these new findings, to integrate them into their presentation. Dr. Kalin checked their methodology rigorously, making sure everything met academic standards. She believed in their work but knew they would be scrutinized more harshly than any other presenters. The night before the summit, Jiwon could not sleep. He lay in his empty room, going over the presentation in his mind, worrying about everything that could go wrong. His datapad buzzed. A message from Nari. "Are you awake?" "Yes," he typed back. "Too nervous to sleep, me too." "Can we meet?" They met in the observation deck, a rarely used area with large windows looking out at the stars. Nari was already there, standing by the glass, her silver hair catching the starlight. She looked ethereal and sad and determined all at once. "Tomorrow changes everything," she said as Jiwon approached. "Either we succeed and prove that different species can help each other, or we fail and confirm that I should have never left my world." "We won't fail," Jiwon said with more confidence than he felt. "You cannot know that. Many people will be there, important people. They will ask hard questions. They will look for any reason to dismiss us." Nari turned to face him. "I need to thank you. Whatever happens tomorrow, thank you for believing in me, for seeing past what everyone else saw. You gave me hope when I had none." "You did the same for me," Jiwon said. "I was lost here, going through motions, trying to fit in, trying to be what everyone expected. You helped me find my purpose. Our friendship, our research, it matters. It means something. Tomorrow we show everyone else that it matters too." They stood together, watching stars billions of miles away, 2 small beings in an incomprehensibly large universe, preparing to stand up and speak their truth. The auditorium was packed. Jiwon had not expected so many people. Students filled every seat. Professors lined the walls. Several species had sent representatives specifically to watch this presentation. The air buzzed with anticipation and hostility. Jiwon and Nari waited backstage. Salman was there with them, along with 2 other human participants who had volunteered to provide testimonials. Dr. Kalin gave them final encouraging words. "Remember, you are not just presenting data. You are telling a story. Make them understand why this matters," their names were called. They walked out onto the stage. The lights were bright. The crowd was a sea of different faces, different species, all staring at them with varying degrees of skepticism. Jiwon saw director Minha in the front row, her expression disapproving. He saw Taman near the back, looking uncomfortable. He saw crystalline beings, reptilian scholars, gaseous entities, hundreds of students who had already decided this presentation was worthless. Nari stepped to the podium. Jiwan stood beside her, their presentation displayed on screens around the auditorium. The room was silent except for a few whispers and the rustling of beings adjusting in their seats. "My name is Nari," she began, her voice steady despite the tremor Jiwan knew she must be feeling. "I am Veltherin. Many of you know this already. Many of you have avoided me because of what I am, because of how I smell." Several students in the audience made gestures of agreement. Some covered their breathing apparatuses demonstratively. Nari saw it but continued. "On my world, scent is how we communicate emotion. It is as natural as your words or your color changes or your telepathic signals. But here I learned that what is natural to me is offensive to you. I learned that I am seen as a problem to be avoided rather than a person to be known." The room was completely silent now. Even the hostile students were listening. I almost left. I almost gave up and went home. But one person saw past my scent. One person asked questions instead of making assumptions. That person was human. His name is Jiwan. Jiwan stepped forward. When I met Nari, I did not know she was supposed to be avoided. I just knew she smelled like home, like the forests and gardens of Earth. I was curious why everyone else found her scent so unpleasant when I found it comforting. So we investigated. They presented their findings methodically, the chemical analysis showing similarities between Veltherin pheromones and earth plant compounds, the evolutionary background explaining human olfactory development, the neurological data showing reduced stress responses, the testimonials from human participants describing therapeutic effects. Someone stepped forward when it was her turn. She spoke quietly but clearly about her trauma, about her years of struggling, about how Veltherin pheromones had helped her in ways nothing else had. Her vulnerability was powerful. Even skeptical faces softened as she spoke. Then came the demonstration. They had arranged for a live measurement of stress responses. 3 human volunteers sat connected to monitoring equipment. Baseline readings were established. Then, with Nari's permission, samples of her pheromones were introduced to the environment in carefully controlled amounts. The monitors showed the results in real time. Heart rates decreased, stress hormones dropped, brain activity shifted toward patterns associated with calm focus. The data was undeniable. A murmur went through the crowd. Some beings leaned forward with interest. Others whispered urgently to their neighbors, but not everyone was convinced. A human student stood up in the audience. Jiwan recognized him. Hyunwoo, a third-year student who was part of Director Mina's inner circle. "This is absurd," Hyunwoo declared. "You are asking us to believe that this Veltherin smell, which disgusts every other species, is somehow beneficial to humans? The more logical explanation is contamination, or placebo effect. Your test subjects knew what you were measuring, so they produced the results you wanted." Before Jiwan could respond, Dr. Kalin stood up. Her forearms gestured for attention. "The methodology was reviewed by myself and 3 other senior professors. Double-blind protocols were followed where possible. The days following the presentation were chaos. The Galactic Academic Network exploded with discussions about their research. Some scholars called it revolutionary, a breakthrough in understanding cross-species compatibility. Others dismissed it as anomaly, a statistical fluke that proved nothing. But no one could ignore it. For better or worse, Jiwon and Nari had started a conversation that refused to die. 3 major xenobiological research institutes contacted Nari directly, requesting her participation in expanded studies. The Veltherin government, which had been silent about her struggles at the academy, suddenly issued a statement praising her courage and scientific contribution. Messages poured in from Veltherins across the galaxy, who had felt isolated and ashamed. She had given them hope. For Jiwon, the response was more complicated. Some humans at the academy approached him with apologies. They admitted they had been wrong to judge so quickly, that they had let social pressure override their scientific curiosity. Others, like Hyunwoo and Director Minha, remained convinced he had damaged humanity's reputation by defending an unpopular species. But his family's response surprised him most. Another video message arrived, but this time both his parents looked different, softer somehow. "We watched your presentation," his mother said. "We did not understand it at first. We were embarrassed and angry, but then we talked to neighbors, to friends. We read articles about your research, and we realized something. You have found what we always wanted for you: purpose, conviction, a reason to stand up for what you believe. We are sorry we did not see it sooner. We are proud of you, Jiwon. Truly proud. Jiwon watched the message 3 times, crying during the last viewing. He had not realized how much he needed to hear those words. Nari changed after the presentation. The hunched, fearful posture disappeared. She walked through the station with her head high, meeting the stairs directly instead of avoiding them. Some students still kept their distance, but others approached with questions. A few even apologized. The wall of isolation that had surrounded her began to crack. She started a small group for students from species that others considered unpleasant or problematic. They met weekly in a conference room that Dr. Kalin arranged for them. There was a sulfurian whose natural body temperature made others uncomfortable, a harmonite whose telepathic frequency gave some species headaches, a lithoid whose silicon-based biology was fundamentally different from most carbon-based life. They called themselves the Outcast Coalition, and they supported each other, sharing strategies for surviving in an environment not designed for them. Jiwon attended every meeting. So did Somin, who had become close friends with Nari. The group grew slowly but steadily. What had started as a defense mechanism became a community of genuine connection. Then, 2 months after the presentation, the letter arrived. It was from the Institute for Xenobiological Harmony, one of the most respected research organizations in the galaxy. They had reviewed Jiwon and Nari's work extensively. They wanted to offer Nari a full research fellowship to continue studying cross-species therapeutic applications. They wanted to build an entire program around understanding how species dismissed as incompatible might actually offer unexpected benefits to others. And they wanted Jiwon too. His unique perspective as a human, combined with his research skills, made him valuable to the project. They were offering him a position as a junior researcher. The catch was location. The institute was 3 sectors away from the academy, in a completely different part of the galaxy. Taking the positions meant leaving. It meant saying goodbye to the small community they had built. Nari found Jiwon in the library, their original meeting place. She looked torn between excitement and fear. "Did you get the letter?" she asked. "Yes," Jiwon said. "Did you?" "Yes, I do not know what to do. This is everything I dreamed of. Real research. The chance to prove that my people have value to the galaxy. But it means leaving," Jiwon finished. They sat in silence for a while, the weight of the decision pressing down on both of them. The academy had been hard, but it had also become home. They had fought for their place here. Leaving felt like abandoning that fight. "What if we fail?" Nari asked quietly. "What if we go there and discover our findings were just luck? What if we cannot replicate our results? What if we succeed?" Jiwon countered. "What if we discover even more? What if we prove that the galaxy has been wasting potential by judging species too quickly? We cannot know unless we try." "But the people here," Nari said, "the Outcast Coalition, Somin, they need support. Who will help them if we leave?" "They will help each other," Jiwon said. "We started something, but it is bigger than us now. Look at what has changed already. Students who would not talk to you 2 months ago now ask you questions. Professor Kalin is proposing new courses on biological diversity and compatibility. The academy is different because of what we did. That will not disappear if we leave." Nari nodded slowly. "You want to accept?" "I think we should," Jiwon said carefully. "But only if you want to. This is your future, Nari, your research, your people. I will support whatever you decide." She smiled at him, that small, gentle smile he had learned to treasure. "Our research, our future. We do this together or not at all." "Together," Jiwon agreed. They accepted the fellowships. The next month was a flurry of goodbyes and preparations. The Outcast Coalition threw them a farewell party, the first party Nari had ever been invited to at the academy. Students from a dozen different species crowded into the conference room, sharing food compatible with various biologies, telling stories, laughing. Somin hugged them both tightly. "Thank you for showing me that being different is not the same as being broken. I will continue the group. I promise." Taemin approached hesitantly. "I am sorry," he said to Jiwon, "for leaving when things got hard, for choosing comfort over courage. I hope you can forgive me." "Already forgiven," Jiwon said, and meant it. Even Director Mina came to say goodbye. She looked uncomfortable but sincere. "I was wrong about your research, about what it would mean. The Academy has received inquiries from 6 new species interested in sending students here. Because of the work you did, you made us better. I should have supported that from the beginning. Dr. Kalin gave them both long hugs with multiple arms. You are ready for this. Trust your instincts. Trust your friendship. And remember, science is not just about data. It is about seeing what others have missed. You both have that gift. The day they left, the observation deck was crowded with students who had come to see them off. As the transport ship prepared to depart, Ji-won looked back at the Academy station. It had been the hardest and best period of his life. He had found his purpose here. He had found his courage here. Most importantly, he had found his friend. Nari stood beside him at the viewing port, her silver hair catching the artificial light. Nervous? She asked. Terrified, Ji-won admitted. You? Same, but also excited. For the first time I am going somewhere not to hide but to be seen. That is because of you. And I am going somewhere that matters because of you, Ji-won said. Fair trade. The Institute for Xenobiological Harmony was everything they had hoped for. A massive research complex filled with scientists from hundreds of species, all working to understand how different forms of life could coexist and thrive together. Nari was given her own laboratory and a team of assistants eager to learn about Veltheran biology. Ji-won joined a group studying human sensory processing and its applications in cross-species medicine. Their research expanded rapidly. They discovered that Veltheran pheromones helped not just humans but 3 other species with similar evolutionary backgrounds. They developed therapeutic protocols, training programs for medical professionals, distribution methods for controlled pheromone exposure. What had started as a simple observation in a library became a genuine medical breakthrough. News spread. Veltheran communities that had isolated themselves for generations began reaching out to other species. Therapy centers incorporating Veltheran pheromones opened on a dozen worlds. The prejudice did not disappear overnight, but it began to crack. People started asking questions instead of making assumptions. 6 months after arriving at the Institute, Nari received a message from the Veltheran High Council. They wanted her to return home not as a failure but as a hero. They wanted her to speak to the next generation, to show them that their differences could be gifts rather than curses. Ji-won went with her to Velthera. He had never been to an alien homeworld before. When the transport ship descended through the atmosphere, he pressed his face to the viewing port just like he had when arriving at the Academy all those months ago. Velthera was breathtaking. Massive forests covered the continents, trees larger than any building on Earth. Cities grew from living wood, structures that had been shaped over centuries rather than built. The air was rich with scents that made Ji-won's eyes water and his heart swell. It smelled like Nari but multiplied 1,000-fold. It smelled like coming home to a place he had never been. Thousands of Veltherans gathered to greet them. They did not speak much. They did not need to. Their pheromones filled the air with welcome, with gratitude, with hope. Nari stood before her people, tears streaming down her.